This morning, one of the UKIP leadership contenders tells us he's standing down from the race to back his rival, Paul Nuttall, MEP. We can speak to the West Midlands MEP, Bill Etheridge. Hello, Mr Etheridge. Give our audience a little bit more detail about why you've taken this decision.
Well, when we first had the vacancy for leader, when Nigel stepped down, Paul was my preferred choice then. And I was really hoping that he would stand, bring the party together and take us on to new strengths. Unfortunately, at that time, he didn't stand, and I felt I had an obligation to carry it forward and to stand myself, and I'm very grateful for all the support I received. Of course, this time round, Paul has said that he's ready to go for it. He's going to take us forward, and I can think of no better man to unify the party. So, rather than letting my own personal ambitions get in the way, I think it's time to put the party first, and I'll be supporting Paul. I think he'll make a fantastic leader.
And what strand of UKIPery do people like you and Paul Nuttall represent, do you think?
Well, I know what strand I represent, and I think there's a subtle difference between me and Paul. I'm the libertarian side of UKIP. I'm very much into small state, lower taxation, direct democracy, and really quite a firebrand for that. Whereas Paul is more of within the party, he sits right in the centre of opinion. He's a unifier. He's someone we can all believe in. He doesn't 100% agree with everything I agree with, but what I do believe in is I know that this is a guy who has his heart in the right place and will take the party forward, and we can all trust.
Right, because you'll know that another contender, Susan Evans, says she will make the party less toxic and she will occupy the common sense centre ground. Too much testosterone, she says.
Well, I think it's remarkable that anyone who wants to lead a party would call it toxic in the first place. Frankly, Ms Evans has got her own point of view. I would like to say to her and to everyone else considering standing for leader, please consider following my example. Let's have a unity candidate. Paul's the right man for the job. He can lead us all. And let's, why don't we all just come in behind Paul and stop this nonsense, say these silly comments like Ms Evans has said there. Let's forget that. Let's move forward and be united.
Right. I gather you were in the room when that heated conversation began between Stephen Woolfe and Mike Hookham. What was that like?
Well, I was in the steel industry for 20 years before I moved into politics, so believe me, it was absolutely nothing. I've seen proper heated debates, and that wasn't one. It was quite remarkable when Stephen got up and suggested that Mike follow him outside. But look, that's done and dusted now. Stephen's no longer in the party. We've got an inquiry result coming out tomorrow, which I think will really clarify everything. But as far as I'm concerned, we move forward now and forget that whole sorry and embarrassing episode, and let's go on with the future.
Stephen Woolfe thinks the future is, as you know, a death spiral for UKIP.
Well, sometimes when people don't get what they want, they can take it one of two ways. They can be honourable, move on within a party or an organisation and try and help it, or they can throw their toys out the pram and go and sit on their own in the backbenches in the independent section. Stephen's chosen his path. That's entirely up to him. I wish him well for his life outside of UKIP, but we move on as UKIP, and we are going to be united after this election.
And now you've won the Brexit vote. What is the point of UKIP?
Well, now the exciting part starts. We can actually start to put forward radical policies for reform within our country. I believe that we had a long period of time where all of the political parties actually were saying very much the same things. And the reason for that was because they didn't have the power to make real change in our country. Now we have. If we can make Brexit be followed through and keep Mrs May true to her word, then we've got an opportunity where the people can really vote on a whole range of changes, different ways of doing things, different taxation systems, for example. I'd like to see VAT scrapped and replaced with a local sales tax. There's all sorts of things that we can do, but we need now to get that Brexit decision fully through, and then we can start changing the country for the better. It's an exciting time. It's time to really be optimistic and forward-looking and stop being so gloomy about everything.
I just want to play you a little bit of an interview with another of your candidates, John Rhys-Evans. This is what he told the Daily Politics yesterday.
You were strongly criticised for the way you were asked to respond to a claim made by another UKIP candidate, this was in the run-up to the general election, that some homosexuals prefer sex with animals. You did so by talking about how a gay donkey tried to rape your horse. Do you still stand by that?
Do you know, Joe, it's really interesting what you're doing, because I'm trying to tell you my serious vision for UKIP, and you keep trivialising it.
Look, was that just a trivial point?
It was a bit of playful banter with a mischievous activist. I concede it was a mistake to be playful with an activist in a street. The fact is, I'm not a politician. You know, the guy was just asking me questions in the street. It was an error of judgment. You know, I was very early coming into politics, and yeah, I'm sorry if I offended anyone by doing that, but please can we move on?
What do you think of that, Mr. Etheridge?
Well, I don't know Mr. Rhys-Evans. It sounds to me like when you put him on the spot, he tried to be honest about it, but all I can say is that I think he should follow my advice and my example and withdraw, as the other candidates should, from this race, and let's all get behind Paul Nuttall, and let's not give any more hostages to fortune of saying silly things like that people can use against the whole party. I would like to think that it was just a foolish attempt at a joke that went wrong, but either way it was ill-advised and a pretty stupid thing to say.
We're expecting Heathrow to get the green light for expansion this lunchtime from the government. Do you back that? Would you back that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel for the local residents. Obviously, as all of us must do, it's going to be a situation where people are going to lose their homes and life's going to become difficult. But for the greater good of the economy, we do need to be open for business, and we need airport expansion. I think is a really positive and optimistic thing. I'd like to see more of it. I'd like to actually see the government talking about expansion all across the country, and not just Heathrow. Let's look at really big, boosting and booming as a country. We've got a bright future ahead of us, and this is just one way we can really make an impact on the world scene. So great, good on them, good decision. Let's crack on with it.
We're seeing in Calais, I know you've been out there, we're seeing the dismantling of the so-called jungle camp. Have you seen anything that makes you think this will be the last of these camps, bearing in mind we did used to have Sangat, a refugee camp in Calais, and now we've got this place?
Well, when I went out there, I spoke to quite a few of the people there, and first of all, they were living in conditions that were appalling. Absolutely appalling, and can't be tolerated in the 21st century in civilized society. But not just that. Every one of them that I spoke to, I said, well, is there a problem in France? Is there something you're fleeing from? Is there some reason why you need to get to the UK? And every one of them said it was for economic reasons. Well, that unfortunately is not acceptable. The French government have got to not just clear these camps, but process the people who are there. Let's find out who they are. Are they genuine asylum seekers? If so, then of course we should take our fair share and they should be given asylum. If they are simply trying to advance themselves economically by coming to the UK for better benefit systems or whatever it may be, I'm afraid that's not within the current rules of our immigration system, and it can't be allowed. So the French government have to take responsibility. It is on their soil after all.
Thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you, Bill Etheridge, MEP, who's announced he's not now going to contend or run in the competition to be leader of UKIP. He's standing down in favour of his colleague, Paul Nuttall.